The first time Emma asked it, I thought it was just an awkward child's question, a stray, inexperienced phrase that a soft laugh and a casual shrug would correct. The second time, my heart began to learn a new kind of ache. The third time, the words became a splinter under my skin I couldn't ignore. It was a Sunday in late November. The kind of afternoon that smells like cinnamon and carries the faint promise of winter. We'd been at my parents' house in suburban Connecticut for a late lunch: roast chicken, mashed sweet potatoes, the table cluttered in that comfortable way that means many hands prepared it. The kitchen still had the same yellow wallpaper from my childhood, now slightly faded, with tiny roses climbing invisible trellises. Grandpa Harold sat at the head of the worn oak table like he always did, hands folded over his cardigan, a slight smile that had once looked like warmth but lately felt thinner, more practiced. His silver hair was combed back neatly, and his wire-rimmed glasses caught the afternoon light streaming through the bay window. Emma, 9 years old, with her father's sandy blonde hair and my green eyes, was drawing at the kids' corner with crayons scattered like tiny flags across the hardwood floor. Lucas, 6, wore a paper crown askew on his head of strawberry blonde curls and was determined that every adult in the room needed to witness his magic tricks. They were both boisterous, ridiculous in the best way, the kind of noise that should have made a house feel lively, not like an intrusion. "Grandpa, look," Lucas shouted, his high voice piercing through the adult conversation. He produced a quarter that magically appeared from behind his ear, his freckled face beaming with pride. Harold glanced up, smiled politely, clapped once with minimal enthusiasm, then returned to the newspaper folded in front of him. I felt the familiar knot tighten in my stomach, but said nothing. My mother, Barbara, caught my eye from across the kitchen counter and gave a subtle shake of her head. "Don't make a scene," her expression said. We were masters at pretending everything was fine in the Anderson family. A little later, when dessert came around, my mother made a show of how she'd baked the apple pie just for Harold. "Your favorite," she announced, placing a generous slice on his plate with a flourish. Her hands still elegant despite the age spots. He nodded, accepted it with a murmured thanks, and pushed the fork around almost absent-mindedly, taking small, perfunctory bites. Meanwhile, Emma had brought her science fair project poster to show him a colorful display about photosynthesis she'd worked on for weeks. She stood beside his chair, holding it up hopefully. "Grandpa, want to see what I made?" "That's nice, sweetheart," he said without looking, eyes still on his pie. Her small shoulders sagged. She carefully set the poster down against the wall and returned to her crayons. My brother, Michael's kids Tyler and Madison had visited the week before, and I'd heard everything about how Grandpa had taken them to the park, bought them ice cream, and played catch with Tyler for nearly an hour. The photos my sister-in-law posted on Facebook showed my father's face lit up with genuine joy, something I rarely saw anymore when we visited. On the drive home through the winding suburban streets lined with bare trees, Emma's voice was a small thing in the car's silence. "Mom," she picked at the hem of her purple sweater, her eyes fixed on the window as strip malls and colonial-style houses blurred past. "Yeah, honey. Why doesn't Grandpa like us?" I laughed, one's a reflexive, foolish sound that wanted to turn a child's worry into a joke. "What do you mean?" "Grandpa loves you. He always says how proud he is of you at school performances." Even as I said it, I realized I couldn't remember the last time he'd actually attended one of Emma's performances. Emma chewed her lip, her small face folding into seriousness beyond her years. "But he never sits with us. He talks to Aunt Linda about his old work stuff from the insurance company. He doesn't ask about my science fair. He didn't even really look at Lucas when he did the coin trick. He looked at his paper the whole time." My laughter died somewhere on Route 7. The question hung in the space between us like a cold draft. I checked their rearview mirror. Her eyes were big, honest, vulnerable, reflecting the late afternoon sun. "He doesn't love us," she repeated, each word careful, as if trying them on for size. I felt something that was part shame and part panic, that old, familiar mother hunger to fix everything, to hold it all together and keep it whole. "Honey," I said, and my voice came out softer than I intended. "People show love in different ways. Grandpa might show it in ways that are quiet. Maybe he's tired. He's 74 now. Remember, that's not it," she insisted, her voice taking on that stubborn quality she'd inherited from me. "He laughs at Uncle Michael's jokes. He looked at his phone when Grandma told him about her bridge club tournament. But when we sang Happy Birthday for You last month, he clapped for everyone but not at our part. I watched him. He doesn't smile at us like he used to." My throat tightened painfully. I could feel the car's engine hum beneath us and the ordinary blur of streetlights beginning to flicker on in the gathering dusk. And in that hum, a sudden vivid memory stabbed me, a photograph from when Emma was born. Grandpa holding her like she was a fragile secret. His eyes soft in a way I'd always thought meant devotion. Where had that man gone? When had he disappeared? Did I say something wrong? Emma asked quietly, perhaps sensing my distress. No, baby, you didn't say anything wrong. I wanted to ask him, she admitted, but I was scared he'd be mad. Lucas, who I'd thought was asleep in his booster seat, stirred. Grandpa doesn't do magic tricks with us, he said sleepily. Tyler said Grandpa does them with him all the time. He knows like 100 tricks. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. The rest of the evening was a tightrope walk. I tried to be breezy when I tucked them into bed in their shared bedroom with its glow-in-thought stars on the ceiling, offering the kind of confident, roomy explanations that would let children sleep soundly. Grandpa will tell you stories next time, I promised, smoothing Emma's hair back from her forehead. Maybe he just has a lot on his mind, you know? Grown-up stuff like what? Lucas asked, clutching his stuffed elephant. Oh, just things, bills, and the house, and things. That's what Dad always says when he doesn't want to explain, Emma observed quietly. She was too perceptive for her own good. I kissed foreheads that smelled faintly of apple-scented shampoo and closed the door, all the while thinking of the way Grandpa's gaze had slipped past the kids like they were scenery, like they were furniture he'd grown accustomed to not noticing. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake in the darkness of the bedroom I shared with my husband David, listening to the house breathe the settling of old wood, the hum of the refrigerator downstairs, the distant sound of a car passing on our quiet street. David was snoring softly beside me, one arm thrown over his pillow. Blissfully unaware of the storm in my head, I made a mental list: small, helpless items. Talked to my mother. Asked Grandpa, what's wrong? Watch the next visit carefully. Keep a journal of his interactions. The questions multiplied in the darkness like rabbits. Was it me? Had something I'd done nor hadn't done pulled their grandfather away from them? Had I failed as a daughter in some fundamental way that was now affecting my children? Was there some family secret quietly reshaping how he saw us? I thought back to my own childhood in this same Connecticut town. Growing up, Dad had always been somewhat distant. He was a provider, not a nurturer. That was Mom's job. He worked long hours at the insurance firm, came home tired, read his paper, and watched the evening news. But he'd been there for the important things. School plays, parent-teacher conferences, my high school graduation. He'd taught me to ride a bike on our quiet cul-de-sac, his strong hand steadying the seat as I wobbled forward. When had that changed? When had he become this hollow version of a grandfather? Monday morning arrived with weak November sunlight filtering through the bedroom curtains. The ache in my chest was a map I couldn't read. At breakfast, the kids were bright, skipping into their routines, Emma packing her backpack with her science poster, Lucas singing a nonsensical song about dinosaurs eating pancakes. I carried my own list of worries like a stone in my pocket, heavy and cold. After I'd dropped the kids at Riverside Elementary School, I sat in the parking lot and called my father. My hands shook slightly as I pressed his number. Hello. His voice was gruff, slightly annoyed at the early interruption. Hi, Dad, it's Laura. I know who it is. Caller ID, of course. I wanted to ask you about yesterday. The kids noticed he cut me off. He's fine, sweetheart. Old men get tired. Don't make things bigger than they are. Your mother's always saying you were dramatic as a child. The familiar sting of that word dramatic made me want to hang up immediately. Instead, I pressed on. Dad, Emma specifically noticed that you didn't. I've got a doctor's appointment to get to. Talk later. The line went dead. I sat there in my Toyota, watching other mothers walk back to their cars. Many of them in yoga pants and fleece jackets, carrying travel mugs of coffee. Normal people doing normal things. Why couldn't my family be normal? But David, my husband of 12 years, is better at reading people than I am. That evening, after dinner, I showed him a video I'd taken of Lucas doing the magic trick. David watched it once, then watched it again, his jaw tightening. He watched the whole thing and didn't even look up once. David said, his blue eyes dark with anger. That's not just tired, Laura. That's deliberate. David came from a warm, affectionate family in Vermont, the kind where everyone hugged, where grandparents wrestled with grandkids on the living room floor, where love was loud and obvious. He'd never understood my family's emotional constipation. Maybe I should talk to Mom, I suggested. You think she'll tell you the truth? He had a point. My mother was the queen of smoothing things over, of keeping peace at any cost. When I called her later that night, she was distracted, the TV audible in the background. The conversation was clipped and quick. "He's been quieter lately," she admitted. "Lost a bit of weight, but that's nothing new. You know how he gets in the winter." "Mom, the kids are asking me why he doesn't love them." A long pause. The TV volume lowered. "Oh Laura, they're being dramatic. Kids are dramatic." There was that word again. "They're 9 and 6, and they can tell when someone's cold to them. That's not dramatic, that's perceptive. Your father loves those children." But her voice wavered slightly. "Does he? Because it doesn't look like it. I have to go. Jeopardy's starting." She changed the subject with practiced ease. "Did Emma like the book I sent her?" I felt the conversation slide away like a mist bus. The important thing left unsaid on the platform. It would have been easy and perhaps kinder to myself to let it go. To let my children accept that sometimes adults do odd things, that not all grandparents are warm and cuddly. But the question had bloomed inside me, demanding air, demanding answers. Why doesn't Grandpa love us? The week that followed was marked by small heartbreaks I noticed everywhere at preschool pickup on Tuesday. Emma found her friend Sophie and ran to her, but she kept glancing back at me, like a child testing if a net would catch her if she fell. That wariness in her eyes had, I put it there by confirming her fears about her grandfather. Lucas, who usually announced his day in a rolling monologue of trucks and snacks and playground politics, sat silent and small on the sidewalk bench outside the school, twiddling his paper crown. When I asked what was wrong, he said, "Tyler told everyone at recess that Grandpa took him to the Yankees game. He asked why Grandpa never takes me anywhere." "What did you say?" I said maybe I'm not good enough at baseball. My heart cracked a little more. That evening, while they drew on the kitchen floor and argued about whether a dragon could wear boots they'd burn off. No, magic boots. I called Grandpa from my cell phone in the hallway, my voice steady but my hands shaking. "Hi, Dad, it's Laura. Are you free this weekend? The kids really want to come by. They made you something." There was a long breath on the line, and when he spoke, his voice was polite, careful. The voice he probably used with telemarketers. "I'm busy on Saturday. Your mother and I are going to the cemetery to see the family plot. Make sure it's ready for winter. Maybe Sunday." Though, Sunday. It was a small window and I grabbed at it like a life preserver. "Great, we'll bring dinner. The kids can bring their crafts. Emma made you a card with this beautiful drawing of that's kind, Laura." His tone was flat, perfunctory. I felt a relief cluster like a brittle shell around me, already anxious at the thought of it cracking. I wanted answers, but more than that, I wanted the children to feel seen. I wanted Grandpa to look at Lucas's crooked coin trick smile and Emma's earnest armful of drawings and choose just once to bend himself toward them. All weekend, I practiced conversations in my head. I rehearsed ways to open the topic. It wouldn't feel like an accusation. How to ask about his quietness without blaming. How to hold the children close if he remained distant. I imagined 1,000 possible Sundays. The quiet one, the awkward one, the healing one, and the one I feared most, a room where the kids would ask their question again, louder this time, and where I would not have words to stop that slow, splitting ache. On Saturday, David took the kids to the park to burn off energy. I stayed home and baked a lasagna, Dad's favorite, or at least it used to be. I wasn't sure anymore. I wrapped it carefully in foil and set it in the refrigerator. This offering, I hoped, might somehow help. "You're nervous," David observed when they returned, the kids' cheeks pink from the cold. "Is it that obvious? You've reorganized the kitchen 3 times. He knew me too well. That night, Emma appeared at our bedroom door in her unicorn pajamas. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetie, come here." I patted the bed beside me. She climbed up and curled against me, so small and warm. "What if tomorrow doesn't fix it?" "Fix what, Grandpa? What if he still doesn't want us?" I wrapped my arms around her. "Then we'll deal with it together. But Emma, listen to me, whether Grandpa shows his love well or not, it doesn't change your worth. You are amazing, and anyone who can't see that is missing out." "Okay." She nodded against my shoulder but didn't seem convinced. On Sunday afternoon, we pulled into my parents' familiar driveway on Maple Ridge Drive. The maple tree by the porch already wore autumn's last bruises, deep reds fading to brown. The house was a classic colonial, white with black shutters, the kind that appeared in realtor ads as the American dream. The front steps still creaked in the same places they had when I was a child. The door opened before we could knock. There he was, Harold Anderson, 74 years old, in a navy cardigan that seemed to hang on him more loosely than I remembered. He'd lost weight. His face had more lines, deeper grooves around his mouth. He smiled a small smile, The one he always gave me when he wanted to seem steady. Come in, come in. It's cold out there. Emma dashed forward with a lopsided card she'd labored over for an hour, covered in glitter and stickers. Grandpa, I made this for you. Look, it has a drawing of your house, and Lucas followed, brandishing his crown that he'd repaired with fresh tape. Grandpa, do you want to see my new magic trick? It's really good. I've been practicing. Harold reached down, patted both heads briefly the way you might pat a dog, then his attention shifted immediately to the steaming lasagna dish in my arms. His hand barely made contact with their hair before pulling away. That smells wonderful, he said to me, taking the dish. Your mother's in the kitchen. She made that salad you like. He praised the cooking. He asked about my mother's bridge club tournament. He commented on the weather, how the farmer's almanac predicted a harsh winter. He did not, Into's first 5 minutes, look at the kids again. Not once. I watched Emma's small mouth tremble. For a heartbeat, I saw the gears clicking behind her eyes, the memory of the car question, the hope that today would be different, the realization that it wasn't. The card she'd made was still in her hand. Ignored. She opened her mouth, and the words formed again. Fragile as a paper bird. Grandpa, she started, her voice barely above a whisper. I held my breath. David's hand found mine and squeezed. Harold looked up from examining the lasagna, and the look on his face, not exactly cold, not exactly cruel, was the kind of blankness that makes you want to protect someone from a truth you don't yet understand. Grandpa, Emma said, her voice stronger now, braver, why don't you love us? The room froze. My mother appeared in the doorway from the kitchen, dish towel in her hands, face draining of color. Harold's mouth opened slightly, closed, opened again. Lucas moved closer to his sister, sensing the importance of the moment. Harold started, then stopped. His jaw worked. I do love you. But you don't act like it, Emma said, and her chin trembled, but her voice stayed steady. You act like Tyler and Madison are your grandkids, but we're not. You take them places. You play with them. You look at them. Emma, I started, but David's hand on my arm stopped me. Let her speak. You don't even look at us, she continued, tears now streaming down her freckled cheeks. Lucas practiced his magic trick for 2 weeks because he wanted to show you. I made a poster for my science fair and you didn't even see it. Do you know what it's about? Do you even care? Harold's face had gone pale. His hands shook slightly as he set the lasagna down on the entry table. It's about photosynthesis, Emma supplied, her voice breaking. But you wouldn't know that because you never asked. The silence that followed was suffocating. My mother moved toward the children. Emma, sweetie, maybe we should know, Harold said quietly. No, Barbara, she's right. Everyone turned to look at him. He lowered himself slowly into the armchair by the door, as if his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes, and when he looked up, they were wet. I have always loved my grandchildren, he said, but the words came out heavy, weighted with something I couldn't name. I just don't show it the way you expect. That's not good enough, I heard myself say. Dad, they're children. They need more than love that's invisible. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and something in his expression made my stomach drop. You're right, he said hoarsely. Laura, you're right. And I don't have a good excuse. Emma's hands dropped to her sides, the card fluttering to the floor. Lucas's crown slid off his head. My heart went cold because I realized, then, that this was no longer only about a missing smile. It was the start of a reckoning, and the answer I needed might break more than just my heart. I think, my mother said carefully, her voice tight, we should have some coffee and sit down like civilized people. But Emma wasn't done. No, I want to know why. Grandpa, please just tell us why. Harold's shoulders sagged. He looked at my mother, and something passed between them, a question and an answer. A permission sought and reluctantly given. You kids, he said slowly, look exactly like your mother did at your age. I blinked, confused. What does that have to do with and looking at you? He continued, his voice cracking. Reminds me of every way I failed her. The room spun slightly. What? I whispered. He stood up, walked to the window, his back to all of us. When you were growing up, Laura, I was so focused on work, on providing, on being the kind of man my father never was, someone who could support a family, who had a good job, who was respectable. He laughed bitterly. But I forgot the other part, the being present part, the showing up part. Dad, I missed your soccer games, your school plays. I was always too tired, too busy, to somewhere else. He turned back to face us, and his eyes were red-rimmed. Your mother tried to tell me, but I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought providing was enough. My mother had moved to sit on the couch, her face in her hands. By the time I realized what I'd missed, Harold continued, you were already grown, already married, already building your own life. And I thought, well, maybe with grandkids I'd get another chance. Maybe I could do better. But, David prompted gently. But every time I look at Emma and Lucas, I see Laura. I see this little girl. I failed, and I'm terrified I'll fail again. So, he gestured helplessly. I keep my distance. I figured if I wasn't too involved, I couldn't screw it up too badly. That's the stupidest logic I've ever heard, I said, anger suddenly flaring hot in my chest. So, because you were a mediocre father, you decided to be a terrible grandfather. Laura, my mother started. No, Mom. No more protecting his feelings. Do you know what it's been like? Watching my kids try to earn love from someone who won't give it, watching them wonder what they did wrong. They didn't do anything wrong, Harold said, his voice broken. They're perfect, both of them. That's what makes it worse. Emma had started crying quietly. Lucas looked between the adults, confused and scared. David knelt down and pulled both kids to him. Hey, why don't you two go look at Grandma's photo albums in the den? I bet there are pictures of your mom when she was little. I want to stay, Emma said. Sweetheart, I said gently. This is grown-up talk. We'll explain everything later, I promise. Reluctantly, they went with my mother, who seemed relieved to have an excuse to leave the room. When they were gone, I turned back to my father. 38 years of hurt and confusion, and the desperate need for his approval came pouring out. Do you have any idea, I said, my voice shaking, how much I wanted you to be proud of me, how hard I tried? I got straight A's. I joined every club. I did everything I thought would make you notice me. I was proud. You never said it. Not once. Michael could bring home a C, and you'd clap him on the back and take him for ice cream. I brought home a report card full of A's and you'd just nod and say, good, keep it up. Harold sank back into the chair, looking older than his years. Michael was easier, he admitted quietly. He was more like me, sports, straightforward, didn't ask complicated questions. You were different, sensitive, always asking why, always wanting to talk about feelings. I didn't know what to do with that. So, you did nothing. I'm not making excuses, Laura. I'm trying to explain. David, who had been silent, spoke up. With all due respect, sir, understanding why doesn't help Emma and Lucas. They need to know if you're going to be in their lives or not, because this halfway thing it's worse than nothing. Harold looked up at David, then at me. I want to be in their lives. I do. Then you have to try, I said. Really try. No more distance. No more treating them like they're somehow less important than Michael's kids. Michael's kids, Harold trailed off. What about them? He looked uncomfortable. Michael lives 3 blocks away. He drops by all the time with Tyler and Madison. They're just there. It's easier. So, you're telling me proximity is the problem? I felt my voice rising. We live 20 minutes away, Dad. 20 minutes. If you wanted to see Emma and Lucas, you could. You just don't want to badly enough. The truth of that statement hung in the air between us. You're right, he said finally. I've been a coward. We sat in painful silence for several minutes. From the den, I could hear my mother's voice, softer now, talking to the kids about something. The gentle murmur of children's questions. Then Emma appeared in the doorway, clutching an old photo album. Mom, she said quietly, can I ask something? Of course, honey. She came over and opened the album to a page she'd marked with her finger. Grandma showed me these pictures. Why are there so many of Uncle Michael but only a few of you? I looked down at the page. She was right. The album was full of Michael's first day of school, Michael's baseball games, Michael at the beach, Michael's birthday parties, page after page after page. There were a handful of photos of me, tucked in the corners or at the edges of group shots. I looked at my father. Good question, Emma. Dad, why is that? He wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother had followed Emma into the room. Harold, she said, her voice carrying a warning. Barbara, they deserve to know. Know what? I asked, a cold dread settling in my stomach. Harold took a deep breath. When your mother got pregnant with you, it wasn't planned. Michael was already 8. We thought we were done. I had just gotten a promotion at work. We were finally comfortable financially. And then I came along and ruined everything. I finished. The old childhood wound suddenly fresh and bleeding. No, my mother said sharply. Laura, no. We wanted you. I wanted you. But he didn't. I looked at my father. Did you? The pause before he answered told me everything. I was afraid, he said finally. Afraid we couldn't afford another child. Afraid I'd have to work more hours, miss more of life. Afraid I'd fail at being a father again. He looked up at me with devastating honesty. And when you were born, and you were so much work, you cried all the time. You were colicky. You needed constant attention. I resented it. I'm ashamed to say it, but I did. I felt like I'd been punched. That's why you were so much warmer with Michael, I said slowly, pieces clicking into place. He was planned, wanted, and I was the mistake. You were never a mistake, my mother insisted, tears in her eyes. Laura, you have to believe me. But I was unplanned, unwanted. By him. I pointed at my father. Harold's face crumpled. I was wrong. So wrong. But by the time I realized it, patterns were already set. Michael and I had our relationship. You and I didn't. And I didn't know how to fix it. So, you just gave up. I told myself you were fine. You had your mother. You were doing well in school. You didn't need me the way Michael did. I needed you desperately. I said, my voice breaking. I just learned not to show it because showing it hurt too much. Emma had been listening to all of this, her young face trying to process adult pain. Grandpa, she said softly, is that why you don't love us? Because we remind you of Mom, and you feel bad? Oh, sweetheart, Harold said, and his voice finally broke completely. I do love you. I love you both so much it terrifies me. Then why? Because I'm afraid I'll mess it up like I messed up with your mom. I'm afraid you'll grow up and realize your grandpa was a failure. I'm afraid if I get too close, you'll see all my flaws and disappointments, and you'll stop wanting to be around me. Lucas had appeared in the doorway too, still holding his crown. But Grandpa, he said in his small 6-year-old voice, we already want to be around you. That's the problem. The simple truth of it, spoken by a child, seemed to shatter something in Harold. He put his face in his hands and cried deep, shaking sobs that I'd never witnessed from him in my entire life. My mother went to him, put her hand on his shoulder. David pulled the kids close to him, protecting them from the rawness of adult pain, while still letting them see that adults can hurt too. And I stood there, watching my father fall apart, feeling a complicated tangle of anger, pity, grief, and something that might have been the very beginning of forgiveness. When Harold finally composed himself, he looked utterly exhausted. My mother handed him a tissue, and he wiped his face, his glasses, and put them back on with shaking hands. I don't know how to fix this, he said. I don't know where to start. You start, David said firmly, by showing up, by being present, by trying. What if I'm not good at it? You won't be, I said bluntly. Not at first. You'll make mistakes. You'll probably say the wrong thing sometimes. But the effort matters. The trying matters. Emma stepped forward, out of David's protective circle. She walked right up to her grandfather and looked up at him with those serious green eyes. Grandpa, do you want to see my science fair project now? Harold looked down at her, and something in his face shifted Yes, he said hoarsely. Yes, I really do. It's at home, but I can tell you about it. It's about how plants make food from sunlight. Did you know that's called photosynthesis? And that plants are actually helping us breathe. They're like, super important. I didn't know that, Harold said. Tell me more. And she did. She talked for 10 minutes straight about her project. About chlorophyll and carbon dioxide and oxygen, her hands moving as she explained. Her whole face lit up with enthusiasm. And Harold listened, really listened, asked questions, praised her knowledge. When she finished, Lucas stepped forward too, emboldened by his sister's bravery. Do you want to see my magic trick now? I would love to see your magic trick. Lucas performed his coin trick again, and this time, Harold watched every second, clapped enthusiastically, asked how he did it, pretended to be amazed when Lucas wouldn't reveal the secret. For a moment, it felt like maybe everything could be okay. But I knew better. This was one afternoon, one good moment. Real change would take time, consistency, and work. Dad, I said carefully, if you mean this, if you really want to be in their lives, then we need to set some expectations. Okay. Sunday dinners. Every other week. Here or at our house. You show up. You participate. You engage with the kids. I can do that. Emma has a school play in 2 weeks. You'll be there. I'll be there. Lucas has a soccer game next Saturday. Harold hesitated. I'm not good with sports. You don't have to be good at it. You just have to show up and cheer. Okay. I'll be there. And Dad. I waited until he looked me in the eyes. If you commit to this, you have to follow through. Because if you let them down now, after this conversation, After they've seen you cry and be vulnerable, it will hurt them worse than if you'd just stayed distant. I understand. Do you? Because I need you to really understand. These are my children, my whole world, and I will not let anyone, not even you, make them feel small or unwanted or less than. Not ever again. I know, he said quietly, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Laura. My mother spoke up. Harold's not the only one who needs to apologize. She looked at me. I enabled this. I made excuses for him. I should have stood up for you years ago, and I should have stood up for Emma and Lucas now. I'm sorry, Laura. The apology caught me off guard. My mother rarely admitted fault. Mom, no, let me finish. I've spent so much energy trying to keep the peace, trying to make everything seem fine, that I forgot to actually make things right. That stops today. She turned to the kids. Emma, Lucas, your grandfather, and I are going to do better. We're going to be the grandparents you deserve. But if we mess up, I want you to tell your mom, okay? No more pretending everything's fine when it's not. Emma nodded solemnly. Okay, Grandma. We stayed for dinner that night. It was awkward at times. Decades of dysfunction don't disappear in one conversation, but there were good moments too. Harold asked Lucas about his favorite dinosaurs and actually remembered their names. He complimented Emma's drawing skills. He looked at them when they spoke. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The 2 weeks that followed were a test of Harold's commitment. On Tuesday, I texted him a photo of Lucas at soccer practice. He responded, "He's got good form. Tell him Grandpa's proud of him." It was a small thing, but it mattered. On Thursday, Emma called him from our landline, something we'd encouraged her to do. I listened from the kitchen as she nervously asked if he wanted to hear about her day. They talked for 7 minutes. I timed it. When she hung up, her face was glowing. He asked me 3 questions. Mom, 3 whole questions about school. That's wonderful, honey. Do you think he'll really come to my play? I think he'll try very hard to. The school play was a production of The Wizard of Oz. Emma had a small role as a munchkin, but to her, it was Broadway. She'd been practicing her one line for weeks. Welcome to Munch. The night of the performance, we arrived early to get good seats. The elementary school auditorium smelled like old wood and floor polish. The same smell from when I'd performed in plays here as a child. David saved seats while I helped Emma with her costume backstage. What if he doesn't come? She whispered, her face painted with rosy cheeks and exaggerated eyebrows. He'll come, but what if he doesn't? Then we'll deal with it. But Emma, I really think he'll be here. I wasn't entirely sure I believed it myself. The lights dimmed. The audience settled. I scanned the rows of parents with phones ready, grandparents with camcorders, and younger siblings squirming in their seats. No Harold. No, Barbara. My stomach sank down. Then, just as the overture began, I saw them slipping into the back row. Harold was carrying flowers, a small bouquet of daisies. My mother was directing him to seats with a determined expression. They'd made it. When Emma's scene came, Harold leaned forward in his seat. I watched him from 3 rows ahead. He was smiling, really smiling, and when Emma delivered her one line with perfect enthusiasm, he clapped louder than anyone. After the performance, we met in the lobby. Emma ran to us, still in her munchkin costume, her face shining with joy and relief. "You came," she shouted, throwing herself at Harold. He caught her, actually caught her, and hugged her, and I saw tears in his eyes again. "Of course I came. You were wonderful. A natural performer." He handed her the daisies, and she buried her face in them, inhaling deeply. "These are my favorite flowers," she said. "How did you know?" "Your grandmother told me," he admitted. "I should have known myself, but I'm learning." The honesty of that statement, "I should have known, but I'm learning," felt like another small breakthrough. Saturday arrived, cold and bright, the kind of late November day where you can see your breath. Lucas's soccer game was at 9 a.m., which meant most of the parents looked half asleep, clutching travel mugs of coffee and bundled in fleece jackets. Harold and Barbara arrived 10 minutes before kickoff. Harold looked uncomfortable in his windbreaker and khakis, his hands shoved in his pockets. "I don't really understand soccer," he admitted as he sat on the cold metal bleachers beside David. "That's okay," David said easily. "Neither do most of us. We just cheer when our kid touches the ball. That seems simple enough." Lucas was playing defense, which meant long stretches of inactivity, followed by sudden moments of panic. He was not a natural athlete, he was small for his age, still working on coordination, but he tried hard. Halfway through the second quarter, the ball came rolling toward Lucas. He positioned himself, wound up to kick it, and completely missed. The opposing team's forward scooped it up and scored. Lucas's shoulders slumped. A few of his teammates groaned. I held my breath, waiting to see what Harold would do. He stood up, cupped his hands around his mouth. That's okay, Lucas. Shake it off. You'll get the next one. Lucas looked over at the bleachers, surprised. Saw his grandfather standing, cheering for him even after a mistake. His face brightened immediately. For the rest of the game, every time Lucas touched the ball, even if he just kicked it out of bounds, Harold cheered. Loudly, enthusiastically. Lucas was the star player. After the game they lost 3-1, but nobody seemed to mind. Lucas ran straight to Harold. Did you see when I almost blocked that goal? Almost. You were right there. Another inch and you'd have had it. Coach said I'm getting better at positioning. I could tell. You looked like a real defender out there. Lucas beamed. Then, shyly, Grandpa, would you want to practice with me sometime? Just kicking the ball around? Harold's expression flickered in certainty. Fear of commitment. The old urge to make excuses. I tensed, ready to step in. But then he nodded. Yes, I'd like that very much. How about next Saturday? Really? Really? Lucas threw his arms around Harold's waist. You're the best, Grandpa. Over Lucas's head, Harold met my eyes. The look on his face was complicated gratitude, regret, hope, determination all mixed. I nodded at him. Keep going, the gesture said. You're doing it. The first official Sunday dinner at our house was the following week. I'd spent all day Saturday cleaning, cooking and trying not to be nervous. David kept telling me to relax, that it was just dinner, but we both knew it was more than that. It was a test. A chance to see if Harold could maintain this new version of himself in our space, with our rules. In our family dynamic, they arrived at 5 p.m. with a pie from the bakery, and a wooden puzzle for the kids, a map of the United States. I thought they might enjoy learning the states, Harold said, handing it to Emma. I used to love geography when I was young. Thank you, Grandpa. Emma immediately opened it, and she and Lucas started trying to fit Connecticut into place. Harold watched them for a moment, then asked, would you like help? Yes. He got down on the floor with them, actually got down on the carpet in our living room, and started pointing out states. This one's Vermont, where your dad's family is from. And this is Man, your grandma, and I went there on our honeymoon. You did? Lucas asked. We did. Stayed in a little cabin by the ocean. We saw whales. Real whales. Real whales. Humpback whales. They were magnificent. I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching this scene. I'd imagined it so many times but never quite believed would happen. My father, sitting cross-legged on our living room floor, talking to my children about geography and whales and memories I'd never heard him share. Dinner was pot roast with carrots and potatoes, comfort food, the kind my mother used to make. We sat around our dining table, the one David and I had bought at an estate sale when we first got married. Slightly too big for the room, but perfect for family dinners. Harold sat at the opposite end from David, not at the head. He wasn't in charge here, but present, participating. Emma, he said during the meal, how's your science fair project coming? Really good. I got an A on the presentation, and now I'm working on the written report. What's the hardest part? The hypothesis part. I have to explain what I thought would happen and why. What did you think would happen? And off she went, explaining her predictions about plant growth in different light conditions. Her words tumbling over each other in her excitement. Harold listened, asked follow-up questions, and praised her scientific thinking. Lucas, not to be outdone, started telling a rambling story about a kid at school who brought a tarantula for show and tell. Harold listened to that too, laughing at the right moments. Asking if Lucas had been scared, he was, but only a little. After dinner, we played the state puzzle together as a family. Harold turned out to know all 50 states and their capitals, which impressed the kids enormously. How do you know all of them? Emma asked. I had to memorize them in school when I was your age. It was harder then. We didn't have computers to look things up. You didn't have computers? Lucas looked horrified. Not personal computers. No. Can you imagine? What did you do without computers? We played outside, read books, used our imaginations. That sounds boring. Harold laughed, a real laugh, warm and genuine. Sometimes it was, but sometimes it was wonderful. When they left at 8 p.m., both kids hugged both grandparents. Real hugs, not the perfunctory ones from before. Thank you for coming, Emma said. Can you come next week too? We'll be here, Harold promised. Every other Sunday. Remember, every other Sunday, she repeated, like she was committing it to memory. After they left, David and I cleaned up the kitchen in companionable silence. That went well, he said finally. It did. You okay? I thought about it. Yeah, I think I am. It's strange I spent so many years being angry at him, and now I'm watching him actually try. And I don't know what to do with all these feelings. You don't have to figure it out all at once. No. You can just see what happens. Take it one Sunday dinner at a time. One Sunday dinner at a time. I could do that, 3 weeks into the new routine. Harold missed a Sunday dinner. He called Saturday night, his voice strained. Laura, I'm not feeling well. I think I've got that flu that's going around. Your mother thinks I should stay home tomorrow. Oh, okay. That's fine, Dad. Feel better. Tell the kids I'm sorry. I will. But when I told Emma and Lucas, Emma's face fell immediately. He's not coming. He's sick. Honey, he has the flu. Are you sure he's really sick? The question gutted me because I understood exactly what she was asking. Is this an excuse? Is he going back to the old way? Yes, I'm sure. Grandma confirmed it. He really doesn't feel well. She didn't look convinced. Sunday dinner felt odd without them. We went through the motions, but the kids were quieter than usual. Lucas kept looking at the door like Harold might still show up. On Monday, I called to check on my father. My mother answered. How's he doing? Better. The fever broke this morning. He feels terrible about missing dinner. It's fine. He was sick. Laura, he's not just sorry about missing dinner, he's worried the kids will think he abandoned them again. That's actually what Emma was worried about too. I know. He knows. He wants to make it up to them. Mom, he doesn't have to make anything up. He was sick. That's legitimate. I know that. You know that. But he's paranoid about backsliding. He wants to do something to show them he still cares. 2 days later, a package arrived at our house. Inside were 2 books, one about magic tricks for Lucas, and one about famous scientists for Emma. Each had a handwritten note. Lucas's read, Dear Lucas, I'm sorry I missed dinner. I was thinking about you while I was sick. This book has some great tricks in it. Maybe we can learn them together. Love, Grandpa. Emma's read, Dear Emma, I'm sorry I missed dinner. Being sick gave me time to think about your science fair project. This book talks about scientists who changed the world, including the woman who discovered how photosynthesis works. I thought you'd enjoy it. Love, Grandpa. Emma clutched the book to her chest. He remembered my project. He did. And he sent me a book about it. He did. She looked up at me with shining eyes. Mom, I think Grandpa really does love us. Yeah, sweetheart, I think he does. That night, after the kids were in bed, I called my father. Hi, Dad. The kids got your package. They loved it. Oh, good. Good. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if it was too much or Dad. It was perfect. A pause. Really. Thank you for thinking of them. I've been thinking about them a lot lately. About you too. Yeah, Laura, I need to say something, and I need you to just let me say it without interrupting. Can you do that? Okay. He took a deep breath. I've been going to a therapist. I almost dropped the phone. Your mother insisted. After that Sunday when everything came out, she told me I needed professional help to deal with my issues. She was right. I've been seeing someone for 3 weeks now. Dad, that's really good. It's hard, talking about all this stuff I've buried for decades. Facing what a terrible father I was. What a terrible grandfather I've been. You weren't terrible, please. Let me finish. Sorry. I was terrible, maybe not intentionally, but impact matters more than intention. And the impact of my coldness, my distance, my inability to show love, it hurt you deeply, and now it was starting to hurt Emma and Lucas. And I couldn't let that happen anymore. My throat tightened. The therapist helped me understand something, he continued. I was recreating my own childhood. My father was cold and distant. He never said he loved me, never hugged me. I swore I wouldn't be like him, but I didn't know how to be anything else. I didn't have a model for warmth. I know, Dad. I know your father was hard on you. But that's not an excuse. I had 40 years to figure it out, to learn, to change. I didn't, and that's on me. You're changing now. I'm trying. God, I'm trying so hard, but I'm terrified I'll slip back. That one day I'll look up and realize I've gone back to the old patterns without meaning to. Then we'll tell you. Mom will tell you. I'll tell you. The kids will tell you. You'd do that. Dad, you're not in this alone. We want this to work. We want you in our lives, but you have to keep trying. I will. I promise, I will. We talked for another 20 minutes. Really talked, in a way we hadn't since I was very small. He told me about therapy, about realizing how much of his behavior was driven by fear. Fear of inadequacy, fear of failure, Fear of being vulnerable. The thing is, he said, I always loved you, Laura. Even when I was distant. Even when I failed you. I just didn't know how to show it. I believe you, I said, and I was surprised to find it was true. Do you think you can forgive me? Eventually, I thought about it carefully. I think I'm starting to. But Dad, forgiveness isn't instant. It's a process. There's a lot of hurt to work through. I understand. I'll wait, however long it takes. And the kids there, resilient. They want to love you. Just keep showing up. I will. Every Sunday, every play, every soccer game. I'll be there. Good. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet living room for a long time, processing everything. David came downstairs and found me there. You okay? He's going to therapy. Really, really, and he opened up to me. Actually, opened up, talked about his feelings and his father and everything. David sat beside me and pulled me close. That's progress. It is, but David, I'm scared. Of what? That I'm hoping too much. That I'm setting myself and the kids up for disappointment. What if he can't sustain this? What if in 6 months, he slides back? Then we'll deal with it. But Laura, you can't protect them from every possible hurt. Part of life is taking risks on people, even people who've let us down before. When did you get so wise? He kissed my forehead. I married you, didn't I? Thanksgiving arrived for weeks after that first confrontation. Traditionally, we alternated between my parents' house and David's parents' house in Vermont. This year was supposed to be Vermont, but David's mother called and suggested we do Christmas in Vermont instead, giving us Thanksgiving with my parents. I think your dad needs this, she'd said on the phone, a chance to do a holiday right. So, we found ourselves back at the house on Maple Ridge Drive on Thanksgiving morning, the kids carrying a pie I'd made and a construction paper turkey Emma had crafted at school. The house smelled like roasting turkey and sage stuffing. My mother was in her element, orchestrating the meal with military precision. Harold was in the living room, setting up a card table for the kids. Grandpa, Lucas ran to him immediately. I learned a new magic trick. Want to see? Absolutely. Michael and his family arrived at noon. Tyler and Madison ran in with their usual energy, and I watched carefully to see how Harold would respond. He greeted them warmly, hugged them, asked about school, but then he turned to Emma and Lucas and gave them equal attention. Asked Emma about her latest science project. She was now researching the solar system. Asked Lucas about soccer. Michael noticed. I saw him notice. His expression flickered with something I couldn't quite read. During dinner, Harold made a point to sit between Emma and Lucas. He helped Lucas cut his turkey. He listened as Emma explained why Pluto wasn't a planet anymore. So, it's a dwarf planet now, Harold asked. Exactly, because it hasn't cleared its orbital path. Fascinating. When I was in school, there were 9 planets. Now there are 8. Science keeps changing. That's what makes it interesting, Emma said seriously. Discoveries. Michael's son, Tyler, sitting across the table, interrupted. Grandpa, remember when you took me to see the Mets play? I do, Harold said. That was a great game. Can we go again? Maybe in the spring? Tyler looked satisfied. Madison asked about going to the zoo. Then Lucas spoke up, his voice small. Grandpa, would you take us somewhere to sometime? The table went quiet. Harold didn't hesitate. Yes, where would you like to go? The Science Museum. They have a planetarium. Emma wants to see it. Then we'll go to the Science Museum. How about next weekend? Emma's eyes went wide. Really? Really? We'll make a day of it. Museum, lunch, maybe ice cream. Just us. Lucas asked, like he couldn't quite believe it. Just us, you, me, Emma, and Grandma, if she wants to come. My mother smiled. I'd love to. Michael's jaw tightened slightly, but he said nothing. After dinner, while the kids played in the backyard and the adults cleaned up, Michael cornered me in the kitchen. What's going on with Dad? What do you mean? He's different. All over Emma and Lucas suddenly. Is this because of something I did? Michael, this isn't about you. It feels like it's about me. Like I'm being punished. I turned to face him fully. Do you know what Emma asked me 5 weeks ago? What? She asked me why Grandpa didn't love her and Lucas. She asked me why he hugged your kids but not mine. Why did he go to Tyler's games but not Lucas's? Why was he warm with them but cold with us? Michael's face paled slightly. And when I finally confronted Dad about it, do you know what he said? He said he'd failed me as a father, and he was so afraid of failing Emma and Lucas that he just shut down. Kept his distance. It wasn't about favoring your kids. It was about his own fear and guilt. I didn't know it was that bad. Because you didn't have to. You were the golden child. Michael. The planned one. The easy one. The one who got Dad's attention without having to beg for it. He looked stung. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. And I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it. You understand Dad's not changing because of you. He's changing because he finally realized what he was doing to my kids, to me, and he decided to do better. So, where does that leave me? Tyler and Madison. It leaves you with the same grandfather you've always had. Michael, you're not losing anything. Dad's just finally giving Emma and Lucas what they should have had all along. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I know. If I'd known he was treating your kids differently, I would have said something. Would you have? He thought about it honestly. I don't know, maybe. I'd like to think so. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was honest. The following Saturday, Harold and Barbara picked up Emma and Lucas at 9 a.m. for their museum trip. I was more nervous about this than I'd expected. Sending my kids off alone with my father felt like a huge leap of faith, trusting that he wouldn't disappoint them, that he'd follow through, that this new version of him was real and sustainable. They'll be fine, David assured me as we watched them drive away, Emma and Lucas waving from the back seat. I know, you're afraid. Yeah, that's normal, but Laura, you have to let him try, and let him succeed. They returned at 4 p.m., both kids talking over each other in their excitement. And the planetarium showed us all the constellations. We saw real moon rocks. Mom, real moon rocks. Grandpa bought us books in the gift shop and we had pizza for lunch. And Grandpa let me get extra cheese. I looked at Harold over their heads. He looked exhausted but genuinely happy. Did they behave? I asked. They were perfect, he said, curious, enthusiastic, wonderful. Laura, you've done an amazing job with them. The compliment caught me off guard. Thank you, I mean it. They're smart, kind, interesting people. I can't believe I almost missed knowing them. After they left, Emma showed me the book Harold had bought her, a thick hardcover about space exploration. Inside the front cover, he'd written, "To Emma, who asks the best questions. Love, Grandpa." He said I ask good questions. Emma told me. He said scientists have to be curious like me. He's right, Mom. She looked up at me seriously. I think Grandpa's going to be okay now. Yeah, he's learning. As Grandma said. It's hard for him because his dad wasn't nice, but he's trying really hard. Out of the mouths of babes. By Christmas, the change in Harold had become the new normal. He came to Lucas's school's holiday concert and video recorded the whole thing. He helped Emma with her science fair project, building a display board with her. He called during the week just to check in, to ask about their days. He even started therapy with my mother, couples counseling, to work through the ways his emotional distance had affected their marriage. 2. I had no idea how much I'd been enabling him. My mother confessed to me over coffee one afternoon in December. I kept making excuses, keeping peace, pretending everything was fine. I was so focused on maintaining the image of a happy family that I forgot to actually create one. You were doing your best, Mom. My best wasn't good enough, but we're working on it, both of us. Christmas morning, we gathered at my parents' house, our family, Michael's family, and David's parents, who'd driven down from Vermont. The house was full of noise and laughter and wrapping paper and the smell of cinnamon rolls. Harold sat in his armchair, but this time Emma was perched on one armrest and Lucas on the other, showing him the toys Santa had brought. At one point, I caught him looking at me. Our eyes met, and he mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." I nodded. "You're welcome," because that's what this was, a gift we'd given each other. I'd given him the chance to try again. He'd given my children the grandfather they deserved. And somewhere in that exchange, I'd gotten my father back. 2. It's June now, and we're at Lucas's end-of-year soccer picnic. Harold is teaching a group of kids, including Lucas and Tyler, how to juggle. He's terrible at it, dropping balls everywhere. But the kids are laughing and trying to copy him anyway. Emma is showing Barbara her strata report card, pointing out the teacher's comment. Emma's curiosity and scientific thinking are exceptional. "Your grandpa will be so proud," Barbara says. I know. I'm going to call him tonight and read him all the comments. David stands beside me, watching the scene. "You good?" "Yeah," I say. And I mean it. I'm good. It hasn't been perfect. There have been hard days, moments where old patterns tried to resurface, times when Harold got overwhelmed and withdrew slightly, and we had to gently remind him to stay present, times when I had to sit with my own anger and hurt and work through it in therapy. Yes, I started going too. But overall, it's been healing. Harold is still learning, still trying, still showing up, and that's what matters. Lucas scores a goal in the pickup game. Sumi Aragonized and Harold cheer so loudly that other parents look over and smile. Emma runs to me. Mom, Grandpa said we can go camping this summer. Like, real camping with a tent and everything. Is that okay? If you want to go, it's okay with me. I want to go. Lucas wants to go too. Grandpa said he'll teach us about the constellations, and we can roast marshmallows, and she keeps talking. Words tumbling over each other in her excitement, and I realize, this is what I wanted all along. Not perfection, just presence. Just love that shows itself in actions, not just words. Harold catches my eye across the field and waves. I wave back, and in that moment, I think about the question that started all of this. Why doesn't Grandpa love us? Now I know the answer. He always did. He just didn't know how to show it until 3 brave people, my daughter, my son, and finally me, asked him directly and gave him the chance to learn. Sometimes the love we think is lost isn't gone. It's just waiting for the courage to come home, and sometimes, healing a family means having the hard conversations, setting boundaries, demanding better. And then this is the hardest part, allowing people the grace to change. Harold is proof that it's never too late. Emma and Lucas are proof that children are resilient and forgiving when given the truth, and I'm proof that you can break cycles, speak up for your children, and still find your way back to loving the imperfect people who raised you. As the sun sets on this June evening, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, I watch my father laugh with my children, and for the first time in my adult life, I feel complete. Not because everything is perfect, but because everyone is trying. And sometimes that's enough.